Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Glen. Hope you're all doing well. And in today's session, we'll be designing a simple logo of a pencil, just like the one you see on the screen. Before we begin, feel free to scale the quality of the video to the settings to the bottom right of your screen. Now let's open Adobe Illustrator and I have it open here. Let's create a new canvas, file, new. Let's name the canvas as pencil draft 001. Let the width be 2000 pixels, height be 2000 pixels, let the units be in pixels. Make sure the color mode is in RGB and raster effects as high, and let's click OK. Now while exporting the logos for a client, I usually go for a smaller canvas, but for the time being, let's stick with this one. Now here we have our canvas. Now the first thing we are going to do is we are going to trace the image. It can be any one of your initial rough sketches or your finalized ones. So let me open them, file, open, and here I have both the sketches. Cool. So this is the pencil sketch that I did in my rough book, and this is the finalized version which I did in Adobe Illustrator. So let me copy both of them to our canvas. Select the one, Ctrl C, come back to your canvas, Ctrl V, and you can see it has been pasted in a layer. Let's rename the layer as rough sketch. Cool. Now let me copy this one to Ctrl C, come back to our canvas. Let's move this to the side. Now I want to create a new layer and I'm going to paste it over here. Ctrl V. Cool. Rename it as pencil draft 002 Illustrator. Cool. Alright, so now usually what I would do is I would start my sketch from the pencil sketch. I would trace it on Illustrator, but for the time being, since I did several iterations and finalized with this one, we will right away proceed with this one. And we can use this one to choose the color palettes, or you can choose the ones you prefer. Let's create a new layer and let's lock in these two layers. Oh, wait a minute, let me bring down the opacity, select the image, come down to here, transparency, and bring down the opacity to, let's say 35 is looking good. Now let's lock the layer. In case any of these windows such as transparency, paragraph, or toolbars are missing, just go to window up here and choose the ones you prefer. Cool. Now let's start designing, shall we? Alright, so what we are going to do first is we are going to create the main body section, and as you can see it has two parts to give the sort of reflection. So what I'm going to do is let's create a rectangle, or let's draw it straight. Let's use the curvature tool, open the new layer, and let's start drawing. Alright, so I'm going to click here, and this is the curvature tool. I'm going to bring it down all the way up to here. As you can see, it starts to form curves, so you can double click and it forms a straight line. Bring it down back to here, double click, come back to here, double click. Now you can start playing with the curves. Alright, so now initially I'll be just roaming around with the ideas to make it as easy as possible. Let me move this one to the side, make it duplicate. So to make it duplicate, what you could do is you can hold down the Alt key and move that layer of image. Let me bring up the transparency back to 100 so that I can choose the color palette. Now let's lock in these layers. Alright, so now as you can see, this part of the pencil is white. I would prefer it to be in this shade. So let's use the color picker tool, or it's called eyedropper tool, and then choose the required color, or you could just type the required hex value over here. So now it's in this color and it's looking all right. So let me make slight adjustments. I need the ends to be perfect, but okay, let's, on the hindsight, if you want to zoom in and out, you can use the same keys such as Alt key or the Command key if you're using a MacBook. And now let me perfect this. Alright, so down the road I'll be fast forwarding the video to make things easier. All right, so wait a minute. Now, most of the time while I'm working with sketches, I would prefer to have straight lines on the edges, and that can be achieved in many ways. One of the easiest way I do is you go to view and use the option show rulers, show me rulers, rulers, and show rulers, and you get rulers, and you drag from one of the sides and you get this guidelines, which helps you to make sure everything is in straight lines. And you can see this is quite out of order. Let's bring it down to the right point. Okay, now that's looking fine. Now let me do the same thing up from the top. All right, it's looking bad. Now let's bring it up here. Cool. So now you got the point of how I'm doing the first one. So now to make the corners rounded, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this one, and you can see these highlighted points. So if I click and drag from those edges, you can see how it turns to be rounded edges or corners. Cool. So we are done with the first main part. Let me create a new layer. Let's rename it as primary 1, and this will be the shade or anything of your choice. Alright, so you can see the image is coming along, and after this particular layer I will be fast forwarding the entire process till we reach here. So now we need a new layer within which shows the reflection. So I'm going to do the same thing. Let me choose the layer and let's use the curvature tool, and let's lock in this layer and come back to this layer so that we don't keep messing it up. Now I'm coming back to this point, double click to make it a sharp point, double click, okay, double click, double click, double click. All right, cool. So now just speeding up the process so that the entire video doesn't take a lot of time. So let's bring the guidelines to the left and let's see if everything's making sense. So you can see it's not, so let me move it slightly to the left. Alright, so that must have messed up at the ends. So you can see there's a slight misalignment, so we are going to fix that. Alright, so okay, alright, don't need it to be in different shades, but it's looking good for the time being. Alright, let's fix this one too. That's looking much better, way better, but the shade needs to be lighter. So I'm going to choose the eyedropper tool and click on the required section. So as you can see, now we have the highlighted section. So I'm going to fast forward here for the remaining two sections, and for the top there's a slight change in the methodology, so I'll be explaining after I fast forward. Cool. Alright, now that we are done with the main sections of the pencil, there's one key section that's still left, and that is this area. And for that, what we're going to do is we are going to be removing that section from here. To do that, let's just bring down this one. Let's just close this layer for the time being, because we need to make this shape, and I will be using the curvature tool for the same. So let me create a new layer. Oh wait, I had a layer here. Alright, let's use this layer, and now I'm going to use the curvature tool. And where's the curvature tool? Yeah, cool. So I need this. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click and it turns into a straight line. Double click, turns into a straight line. Double click, turns into a straight line. And alright, so I'm going to make them a little more sturdy. So let's bring some measures to these ends, and let's, okay, good. Alright, now I'm gonna make the remaining changes. So let's bring it over here. It looks fine. Let's bring this one over here. Okay, now that looks fine too. Let me move this one over here. Cool. And this one to here. Alright, so now I need to make a few more changes just to bring out the essence. Alright, so something off. Alright, cool. So now I need to make the corners rounded. So I'm going to be using this one. It looks fine. Let me do the same here, and let me do the same here. Okay, it's looking fine. So now we have this layer. Let me make this into white, but I'm gonna be actually deleting that section. So for the time being, let me change into some other shade. Let's say this one. So we'll be removing this section. So let's turn on the eraser. Now let's select both these layers. Wait a minute, let me remove all these guide points, so I won't be using them for the time being. Okay, these two are connected. So now let's select these two layers. I need to remove this section, so I'll be remove the lock, and let's select these two layers. I need to remove this section, so now use this one, the shape builder tool. As you can see, there's a plus sign next to the arrow key. Hold down the alt key, it turns into a minus, and we'll be subtracting that particular section. Voila, done. So that's how you do that part. Now to give small attention to detail, I would like to have this shade proceed over here, and for that what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a duplicate layer of this one. So let me remove the lock, let me make a duplicate, and here I have the duplicate. Let me lock the other one, and let's change the color to this, and let's change the color of this one to a lighter shade. Alright, I'm locking in this one. Now I need to delete it along these lines. So I'm going to bring the ruler over here. Let me take a new guide point. Okay, cool, it's looking fine. In the original version, I had the shade running across here. It's exactly the same procedure, but later I realized that it would look way better in this way. So I'll be showing what to do. So now let's use the curvature tool, and I'm going to click over here. I'm going to remove these guide points. There are other easier ways, but this is one of them. So double click, it turns into a straight line. Alright, double click, it turns into a straight line. Cool. Now alright, so here's a slight issue at hand. I need to remove this section, so let's use the curvature tool again, and I'm gonna delete that section. So you can use the shape builder tool, hold down the alt key, turns into a minus, and remove that particular section. Done. And as easy as that. So as you can see, there's a slight bend over here. I need to fix that. Double click, it turns into a straight line. Cool. Now it's the time to fix the tiny imperfections. But before we do that, let's just remove the rough sketch. So let's just close it. And it's gone, and I need to close this one too. Cool. So I'm gonna remove all these locked layers because I need to remove those guide points. Let's remove the guide points for the time being. Alright, there we have our pencil, but there are slight imperfections at hand, so we need to fix that. Let me keep the ruler over here. Now let's fix the tiny imperfections. Oops, so best choice would be to use the arrow keys to make the adjustments, and now we need to fix the bottom sides as well. Alright. Alright. Alright, so that's fixed. Now I need it perfectly aligned, and I can see there's a slight budge over here. So I could do one thing. I can use the curvature tool or the arrow keys and move it a bit to the side. That's gonna cause a few complications down here. I hope it's not. I didn't exactly like how it ended up over here, so let's use this one. Let's fix it over here. Let's use the guide points. There are tiny budges over here, and let's fix that. I believe the tiny budge is because of the let's remove these ones. Cool. So that issue is resolved. Now let's focus on making them perfectly aligned. There's a tiny gap over here, so I'm going to select these two layers and let's move it a bit to the left. Looking fine. And so is it on the left, but I don't think so. So okay, looking fine. Now I made a slight difference in the shade, so let's turn this one on and let's lock it in. This one has to be lighter shade, this one has to be darker, so let me choose that. Cool. Let me choose this one and change the shade to a lighter version. Alright, that is looking perfectly fine. Now let me just close this layer, and there we go. So there we have our pencil logo. Now if you need to export it, all you have to do is go to File, Export, Export for Screens, choose the location. I would prefer to keep it in alright, so I have a few already done here, few initial trials. So let me create a new folder, tutorial export. Choose the folder, select the folder. Now make sure the format is in PNG, and I always prefer to go for a higher scale because that increases the resolution of the image. So I go for 4x and export the artboard. Now it should open the PNG folder, and here we have the PNG folder. Let's open the artboard, and there we have our logo. In case we need a white background, all we have to do is just create a layer beneath all the other layers. And let's use this rectangle and then draw a rectangle, square, and then let's fill it with a white background. Looking good. I do the same thing again, export for screens, export the artboard. I'm going to replace the existing one, and this time we will see the logo with a white background. There we go, looking good, right? Alright, so hope you enjoyed the video. If you found it useful, give it a like. If you wish to see more similar tutorials, do subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.